What's going on YouTube? Aaron here, and in today's video we are going to be diving back into the Brian Laundrie GabbyPetito case. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the dry bag today. I've had several emails over the last couple days wanting me to go into the map and show you guys exactly where, or at least close to where, Chris and Roberta possibly found the dry bag on October 20th when they went to go search for Brian in the reserve. And that, of course, we know is the day that they ended up finding his remains. But I wanted to make a full video out of this, and especially as we're kind of waiting for potential information around the cause of death for Brian, or even any other information really at all around the case as a whole, I figured let's make this into a video. Enough people have requested it, and so I figured I would match and compare the footage from October 7th, not even 2 weeks prior, when Chris Laundrie went to the reserve by himself to look for Brian. And of course, we all remember that. I figured I would compare and see exactly how close he was that day when he parked his truck to where they ended up finding the remains, the dry bag, all of the items, not even 2 weeks later. And so, of course, stick around to the end of the video as well, because I play some kind of enhanced audio from the conversation that Chris and Roberta had with law enforcement after they found the dry bag. And I try to kind of make out what they say in that video. So stick around to the end. Definitely hit the like button and subscribe for more content in the future. But let's just jump in. So this is from October 7th. Like I said, this is when Chris went out to the reserve by himself. And a lot of people were asking me to pause and try to show what was in his bag the day he went. And, you know, I assume that there was probably some water and some food because he had planned to go out and probably look for a couple of hours. But upon looking at it a bit more, and I'm just speculating here, it kind of looks like a notebook in the bottom of his bag. You know, if you put, you know, a normal notebook in the bottom of a bag, like just a regular, not a hard shell book, it's going to naturally kind of bend. This is kind of a smaller notebook. But it's going to naturally kind of bend underneath, you know, if a lot of stuff was sitting on top of it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Obviously, he probably had his lunch in there, but this is from October 7th. So some people were telling me they think that he was sprinkling things throughout the reserve, you know, without people seeing on the 7th. And then that's how they were there on the 20th. But I don't know where he was exactly at the reserve that day. And we don't really get that. So obviously this is from WFLA from the day on October 7th when he went. They're showing that footage we just saw on the right. This is where his truck was parked at that day. They never really were able to pinpoint where they were searching that day. Of course, we all remember the photos coming out from that day when people, you know, we see Chris Laundrie smiling and laughing with this federal agent who kind of looked like Brian. Some people are dead set thinking that was Brian, but guys, if we look at a few of the other photos from that day, we can see the same guy from a different angle. It's very clearly not Brian. Of course, this was an interesting thing to come out during all of this, and it sparked a lot of attention, but that was not Brian. They weren't able to find where they were at in the reserve that day. And so I'm going to go back into some more of the WFLA footage and see in some of these longer videos from the chopper if we can pinpoint where they were actually at. But this truck in this footage was actually, as the crow flies, only 3,100 feet roughly from where they ended up finding the dry bag, not even 2 full weeks later. And so if I zoom in right here, this is actually where Chris is parked, right under this tree. The fence that runs along through this grass, it's not showing up in the Google image, but it is there. I was just at the reserve a couple weeks ago. That is where the truck was at, was right underneath that tree. And so if you were to hike from that truck's location, it would be about 4,050, 4,060 feet, or roughly 3/4 of a mile from where they ended up finding the dry bag. And I'll go into detail of the location of the dry bag in a second. But it's odd to think that, you know, 2 weeks prior, I don't know where they ended up searching. They were, you know, they were riding around on a little ATV or a little gator type thing. And, you know, I don't know if they went deep into the reserve in a completely opposite direction, or, you know, if they were in this area. But it's, you know, it's they were pretty close on October 7th. So something to note. And then, of course, this is Chris leaving that day. As you can see, this is kind of the gator type thing that they were on. I guess they were wrapping up the entire search for that day. This is Chris leaving the reserve. And yeah, this is just him leaving right here, this exit spot right here. This is the main entrance to that part of the reserve. And that was that on October 7th. And then what we know from there is that on October 20th, we have the footage of him and Roberta going down the trail. And I'm going to go ahead and play this video. This is also accompanied by a soundbite from the lawyer. So let's go ahead and play it. But this is when they found the dry bag.
Chris didn't want to pick the bag up because he wanted the law enforcement to see it. This was caught on camera. Chris couldn't find the law enforcement because they were then out of sight because Chris had been in the woods. So he didn't want to leave the bag there with the news reporter standing nearby. So he picked it up. He did meet up shortly with law enforcement. They looked at the contents of the bag. At that time, law enforcement officers showed him a picture on the phone of a backpack that law enforcement had located also nearby and also some distance off the trail. At that point, the Laundries were notified that there was also remains near the backpack, and they were asked to leave the preserve.
So we'll get into that audio in a second, and I think I do hear him talking about that backpack in the audio, but my computer made a noise here. Let's play this again about the whole not wanting to touch the bag. Hold on.
They were then out of sight because Chris had been in the woods. So he didn't want to leave the bag there with the news reporter standing nearby. So he picked it up. He did.
So odd to me that he didn't want to leave the bag. But I don't know. It's super, super odd. There was no gloves involved. Someone sent me a whole thing saying, like, how wild was it that they picked up the bag, gave it to some guy. No one was using gloves. This is obviously now a massive piece of evidence in this case, and it's just super strange. Here's another photo. So this is Roberta off the trail. I would assume this is part of the Live Long Trail, and then this is that area where Chris went in by himself. That location, guys, is going to be right around here. So, you know, we're under the kind of canopies of trees right here, but Roberta would have been on this trail because the trail kind of runs down through here and then in through these trees as well. And so those photos, so right here, would have been putting Roberta right up here and then Chris off into the trees over here to the right on his own. And so, you know, from that point, they, you know, the lawyer in that video said that they were told about a backpack that had been found. Well, they would have gotten all the way back to around this point right here when that happened, because we know that this is the footage from when the law enforcement had met up with them, when they were looking at that photo on the phone. And of course, we know that this guy comes by with the dog later on in the video. But from what we know about this access road that runs east and west is that it is right here near the entrance to the trails. And so we can see these big pillars on the left right here. I put them roughly at about here when they did that, when that video was taken. So they would have hiked, you know, 3,000 feet from where they found the dry bag. That's quite a distance to come back out of the park to not have anyone come in contact with them. It's a little bit strange, like I said. So we're going to get into that audio in a moment, but I wanted to quickly show you guys. And once again, that's really it. I mean, a lot of people have been asking, where did they find the dry bag? Where did they find the dry bag? That's apparently where they found the dry bag. And then the day that they put the crime scene tape up around this area, that would have been right around here. So some other items had been found and scattered throughout these trees and in this area. There's a lot of orange spray paint in different areas around this this spot. And so, yeah, in relation to the parking lot, it really wasn't that far. So on October 7th, Chris really wasn't too far from this area. And, that's where they ended up finding it. And I wanted to show you guys this really quick. So I got a subscription to this thing called All Trails. And while I'm not seeing anything on the Live Long Trail, we know that the Prosper Trail is another part of the Myakkahatchee trails that they have. And it's on the other side of the big slough. And though we don't need to go into detail about like the information, it is very interesting to see all of the data that they show you as you can kind of scrub through and see, elevation gain, the grade percentage, those types of things. But what I thought was even more interesting is on these trails, there are reviews. So for instance, on August 8th, someone by the name of Ben reported, he put a review on this site and put lots of flooding. I have done this loop a few times. Today, the entrance was flooded. So it said it had a lot of water and downed trees. Fun, but I had to stop about 3 miles in because the river was flowing across the trail. So this is somebody, over a month before, or right around a month before, Brian returned, right around that mark, right around the time where Brian would have been going into the trail a month later. So, a month prior, it was pretty flooded. And even back in July, we've got someone saying that there was some flooding going on. And someone even saying, it's a great loop, a great trail during the dry season. So I just wanted to mention those things to you guys, and show that, some people did report flooding just a month prior. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little bit smaller in this, and I'm going to play this video. I'm going to link this video in the description as a Google link that you guys can play on your own. It's going to be just the audio file. But I'm going to link that so you guys can play it loud and see what you guys can hear from this. But this is from the footage from Fox, right on that part of the trail that I'd mentioned where this was taken. And so reportedly, this is the first person they talked to after finding the dry bag. So let's listen to this really quick. I put subtitles on the screen, but once again, it will be linked down below if you want to listen to it on your own. Hold on.
How about you guys just go back home? Sit tight. No, I think we might have found something. So I'm asking if you could just go home. Sit tight. I'll get it. And I'll give you an update when I have something. Good morning. What would you find?
So you can definitely hear him say right after that walker says good morning, the officer says, "Oh, what did you find?" And then he says, "Oh, it is." And so I don't know what they said right there, but let's listen to that one more time. And then, like I said, the audio is down below if you guys want to listen to it yourselves.
Good morning. What would you find?
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what she said there. At this point, she's still holding the dry bag. So it's odd that she hadn't already handed that over, and that wasn't like the first thing they talked about. Like, oh, hey, we found something. So, I mean, there's just so many little pieces to this that I would love to have in place to know, did they just walk from the inside of the reserve there where we had that mark, 3,000 feet, close to half a mile or whatever it would be, back to near the entrance to the reserve? Did they just do that and then talk to this guy, and then at the very end of their conversation say like, oh, also we found a notebook, or we found a, whatever it was? I'm not sure. Like I said, this is something that, overall, a lot of people have been sending me to, requesting for me to do in terms of just where they found the dry bag. And so I figured I'd take it a little bit of a step further and just show you guys. This is some enhanced audio. I messed with the different levels and EQ, and I added some different low pass filters and I adjusted things, right? And so, I haven't done anything else to the audio, but just adjust it to where I could try to hear the officer a little bit better. And so, yeah, anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully we get some more information in terms of this case here very soon. And I will definitely be here to cover it. So definitely hit subscribe, hit like, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.